Hey everyone, my name is Steve Gold. I'm the Junior High Ministries Director here at First Presbyterian Church in Bakersfield, California. And I do our junior high ministry, and I also oversee our sports ministry and do whatever else my pastor asks me to do, because that's what it's like to work at a church. But we are an old church in Bakersfield. Our church has been in downtown for 125 years, and with that brings some really cool strengths and some challenges. Some of the strengths is that everyone knows where you're at. Everyone knows we're the Pink Church downtown, but it's really cool to be a part of a church that has multiple generations of families going there. So that's been kind of a cool experience to be a part of. But with that, some of the challenges that we have is that we are also looked at as the rich white church downtown, and so that's one of the things that we fight against, and that when our community looks at us, that's a lot of times what they see. But over the last few years, it's been kind of a good thing to be a part of. I think that the perspective has changed a little bit to where at least that's not the label we have. The label's been taken away, but there's still some issues to work on there. But I grew up in San Jose, California, where I met my wife at church and youth group. I began working in the church as an intern with the junior high group right when I hit college. Around the end of my internship, my wife and I got married, and I took a junior high pastor position at a church in Gilroy, California. It was a non-denominational church, and so when we left that church and moved here after about 7 years working in Gilroy, the switch to a denomination was a little bit of a change, a little bit of a learning curve. But we've settled in, and it's been a really great experience so far. And so we really love it here. We love our church community and where God has us right now. Currently, I'm pursuing my MDiv and focusing in on youth and family culture. And I'm a little over halfway there, and I still have probably about 2 years left or so. I've been taking this last summer, and I plan on taking the next couple summers off because I've learned that youth ministry and summer and seminary and having a family don't mix too well. And so for the health of myself and my family and my ministry, summers are being taken off from here on out. This last summer was a great time of just refreshing for me and my family, and so that was a good thing. Speaking of my family, here is a picture of them. Hopefully this will there we go. It will kind of pop up there. This is my wife Heather and my son Ethan, who is 8, and my daughter Abby, who is 11. And my wife's a teacher, and she kind of teaches at the same school or the school right next to where my kids go, and so that's been a great thing that we've been able to have here in Bakersfield. So we've been excited about that. And my role as a junior high director, I get the opportunity to preach weekly to junior high students. I've had the opportunity to also talk to adults a couple times in my career, although here at my current context at First Pres, ordained pastors are typically the ones that preach the most, and so I really haven't gotten an opportunity here to preach to adults in a Sunday morning setting. Talking about where God sees them as parents and sees them in guiding their kids, and so I think that those are some different opportunities that I get. Recently, I've been asked to be a speaker at a couple of camps both of which I'm speaking at this quarter. So that's actually pretty intimidating for me. It's a new thing for me, and so I think this class will be timely in the fact that um, I'm going to have those different engagements going on. So I'm excited about them, but definitely going into them with lots of humility with it. So, anyways, there's that. When I think about preaching, um, I look at it as the fact that God has spoken to someone, the preacher, uh, with with a message that is to be communicated to the listener in a way that they can understand, and not just in a way that they can understand, but in a way that is going to inspire them to action. And I think I love with some of the reading that we looked at this week, just the interaction between the preacher and the congregation. I think is so important, and the Spirit moving in both of those situations is so important, because it's great if the preacher has a word from God and the Spirit's working through the preacher, but the Holy Spirit needs to be also working through the congregation to be good listeners and to act upon what God is speaking through the preacher. And so it's just a really cool relationship that I think the preacher and the congregation have when it comes to preaching a sermon. And so that's when I look at the my own experience, that's definitely what has kind of stood out for me, is that I know to know that God is speaking to the preacher, and to know that God is there present, wanting me to listen and to act upon what is being said, is definitely important. And so that's kind of what I look at as far as preaching goes. Um, so as far as for this class, one of the things that I'm looking forward to is being able to hone some of the skills. I know I have, over the last 15 years of ministry, I have had some bad habits form, and maybe never really trained well in whether it's speaking or preaching or putting together sermons and things like that. And so I'm looking forward to learning a more formal way of doing that, and being able to just uh, just learn more about the role that I believe God's called me to. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to as far as this class goes. Um, and as far as Long was talking about how the importance of a preacher coming from the congregation, or the community of faith, and I think I really resonate with that, especially in our current culture. I think you talk to people around us, and context is everything. And for to have someone stand up and deliver a message or a sermon to a congregation, and then not know where that congregation is coming from, what their context is, I think it can be a hard place to put that person in. And at the same time, I think in our culture today, our congregation is looking for someone who knows them and can relate to them. And so I think that uh, this whole idea of the preacher being a part of the congregation, and just being a vessel that God has chosen to speak a message, is just really important in the idea of just relevancy, and being that the preacher is learning alongside the congregation. Um, it's not, the preacher is not someone who knows more necessarily than other people in a congregation, but God has just chosen them to preach a message, and being a part of that congregation, I think is just a way of just humbly learning alongside them, instead of being someone who's telling them what to do. And so those are just some thoughts that kind of came up as far as through the reading this week. And I think that is about it. I'm looking forward to a great class with you all. Bye.